Before I say anything about this vehicle, can we just enjoy the splendor of soul red crystal metallic paint? Isn't that a beautiful car? I'm telling you right now, it stands out. If you want to stand out, this is a beautiful, beautiful color. It comes from Mazda. It's on a CX-50, but not any ordinary CX-50, but the new CX-50 hybrid version. It takes the old CX-50 and gives it actually more power, but more than anything else, it gives it much better gas mileage. So it makes a great package even better. Want to know more? With a sigh as I gaze upon the beauty of this paint. I really like this paint, folks. I'd have a bicycle that was painted this color and I'd be happy. Anyway, yes, we shall now proceed and examine in depth the 2026 Mazda CX-50 Hybrid. Yeah, it took them a while, but the Horse and Rider as One company, known as Mazda, has finally come out with a hybrid, and this is a really interesting one. I think more than anything else, what surprised me about it is I was just assuming, because of the way Mazda is, that they would develop their own hybrid system that is completely proprietary, because they're famous for things in the past like the rotary engine. Nobody else had a rotary engine in a car, but Mazda did, and they stuck with it for a long time, but it just ran into all kinds of problems, and finally, I think the emissions, more than anything else, is what got to them. But this beautiful CX-50 hybrid actually takes the system right out of, literally just grabs it and yanks it right out of the Toyota RAV4 hybrid, which is probably one of the most highest selling and most successful cars on the market these days. It's been doing very well for a number of years now, and we own one in our household, so I'm going to be comparing the two, but not intensely, just a little bit, because they're kind of different vehicles, because this is actually much more compact than the RAV4 hybrid. But the drivetrain from that vehicle has been very successful, very reliable, and so what Mazda has done is taken it out and put it in their car. So it's pretty much identical, as you're going to see when we look at the engine, and I'll hopefully show you both of them next to each other if I get to. That car, our car is gone on the road so much that it's ridiculous. But anyway, what do we have? Well, we have a shorter wheelbase than most of the competition by a little bit. It's kind of it borders on being a subcompact almost, but it is a compact, and the wheelbase is 110.8 inches. So it's got really good room in it from a utility standpoint, but at the same time, it is more compact than a lot of the other guys. There's no question about it. But the thing it has going for it in that regard is Mazdas are always known for being real tight handlers. And this car is no exception. And the fact that it's actually smaller, more compact, if you will, is one of the reasons why it's so much fun to drive, because they're always fun to drive, Mazdas. They've kind of coined the realm in their own particular genre of having really, really, even in shadow, that paint job. I'm never going to shut up about that paint job. I really like it. But as you can see, I wonder if it's one of them magnet paint jobs that the cops just go after because it's a red car. I don't know. But we'll examine this, and you're not going to have the kind of rear seat room that a lot of the competition offers. But there's a lot of unique things about Mazdas that this car has in spades. And it also has this wonderful new powertrain that generates gas mileage. Let's see what the EPS estimates are. 39 highway, 37 city, and 38 overall, which is just below what the RAV4 hybrid gets. But it's pretty darn good. I mean, that's very economical. And it also has a little bit bigger tank, if I remember right, so that it has ridiculous range. It's great. You can drive and drive and drive and drive, and it will only take a minute or two to fill it up, and then drive and drive and drive some more. So anyway, we will now look at this powertrain, and later on we will compare it if the fates are kind and I get the vehicle that I want to compare it to back. We'll have a look at it. And incidentally, you can tow a 1,500-pound trailer. That's not a 1,500-pound trailer. That weighs quite a bit more. But anyway, let's move on under the hood and see what this hybrid business is all about. You know, one of the nicer attributes to this Mazda and its donor engine from Toyota. The Toyota has a prop rod, unless they've changed it for 2026. I don't know if they have. I don't think they have, but got these nice prop rods here, as opposed to having to use the little prop rod that you have to pull up, hold up, put it in a little hole in the bottom of the hood, and you know, those things. This one has these struts, so it's very easy to open the hood. As you can see, we have a transversely mounted, which is not any surprise because that's almost every four-cylinder engine that's put in your modern compact SUVs, cars, and everything else is mounted transversely. And our cylinders, of course, are 1, 2, 3, 4. Right underneath here is our spark plugs and everything else, and the engine block is down there too. Your fuel injection system is right here, going into the front, and then your exhaust is in the back. No turbocharger, nothing like that. One of the most interesting things about this compared to some of the other Mazdas is, like, for example, the regular CX-50 has direct fuel injection. This, being the Toyota engine, has both direct fuel injection and port fuel injection, which is really great because that helps keep your intake ports clean. Direct fuel injection can get really nasty once you get about 100,000 miles on it, and the cleaning process is not that big a deal. And I don't know what exactly Mazda, how they deal with that particular problem. They may have some magic going on that it's not as bad a deal, but most direct injected engines do have a carbon problem once the miles start to get up there. So by having both, and there's a whole lot of other reasons why both is great, because there's times where port fuel injection actually is a little bit more efficient than direct injection, and vice versa. So it switches back and forth, and depending on conditions, and that's so you get the best of both worlds, which is always great. And this being the engine that comes out of the Toyota, even though you have this lovely logo right here for your Mazda, even though what's on there, guy? Just pop this off. Yeah. See, I just changed the spark plugs on ours, and that's pretty much exactly what it looks like on the Toyota too. I'll put that back on later. We'll let that expose itself to you. But here we have our oil, which is I'm assuming it's 016, and is it? Checking, looking. It's got to say somewhere clearly. I can't read it on that one. It says engine oil. Well, I'm willing to bet money that it's 016. But as you can see, it's a very straightforward layout. All your internal combustion stuff is here, and to the right is where we get into our electricals and our front motor system. And our transmission is a continuously variable electronic, which is completely different from your regular conventional, I said conventional variable, constant variable transmission. The regular constant variable transmission uses belts and has an infinite number of ratios, and it just spools up and back and forth on a big cone, determining what's the most optimal ratio for what you're asking the engine to do. On this type of system, it is an electrical motor system that is also got basically infinite ratios, but it operates in a completely different way than the conventional continuously variable CVT transmission. So you probably know these things. Maybe you don't. Now you do. And I admire your knowledge. As we look around more, we got our air intake here. Comes all the way down, goes all the way through here. And like I said, here is our array of our two different fuel injection systems, or what I call this is where the main port system is anywhere. And I think the direct injection system is just below that. But you got two cooling systems. You got one cooling system for, there's two, there's one, there's two. One is for the electric motor and one is for the internal combustion engine. Speaking of which, hang on, let me get my document here. Yeah. What is our power output? The engine itself puts out 176 horsepower at 5,700 RPM. Now there's two electric motors, one in the front, one in the back, that are the main motors, although like I say, there is a motor involved in the transmission. But anyway, the front motor puts out 118 horsepower and the rear motor puts out 54 horsepower. If you're into your torques, the electric motor in front puts out 149 pounds of feet and the rear puts out 89 pounds of feet. So the rear motor is much weaker than the front motor, and this is primarily a front drive vehicle, although it actually uses a rear the rear power system quite a bit, depending on conditions, not only for traction, but for just general efficiency. There's times where using all four wheels is just a better way to go. It's all algorithms and things like that. It's not artificial intelligence, I don't think, because there is so much thing as it's evil. I'm sorry. I don't know who said that. It wasn't me. But anyway, so you have this combination, whereas the car is capable of being propelled on pure electric power for short stints and short distances, or electric power and gasoline engine power, or gasoline power alone. And if you use, like for example, the sport mode in your driving modes, it's going to use the internal combustion engine more, because it has more power and your mileage will drop down a little bit. But you'll get more power. But the thing is, whenever you're in, doesn't matter what drive mode you're in, if you floor this thing, it's going to fire up everything. It's going to light all the lights and stoke all the fires and crank up all the boilers and everything, so you can get the maximum amount of acceleration. And it's very quick. Your overall output of all this stuff is 219 horsepower, and this vehicle only weighs 4,000 pounds. So it's good. It's a real balanced. It's no powerhouse, but at the same time, it's got good power to get you through your whatever you need to do. And I've found with this drivetrain in our car, we now have almost 130,000 on it. It's been a very, very good drivetrain overall. It has, if you hit it, I mean, if you really get on it, it moves nicely. So there you go. But this is our array of power, and the concept with a lot of people, there's two things that rumors I've come across, and are complete loads of BS that float around. Some people, a person I talked to just the other day who was looking for a new car, I was suggesting a hybrid, and she says, yeah, but don't you have to replace the batteries on that like every 3 years? And I said, no. Well, ours is, we had one that was, I think, 10 years old, and the battery was still, the hybrid battery was absolutely fine still. So that's one thing. Another thing is the complexity of all this. It's not as complex as you might think. They have, over time, learned to consolidate a lot of different systems and everything else and make things a lot simpler. One of the things I love about the Toyota system is there are no fan belts to drive anything. The power steering is electric. The fuel pump is electric. Of course, that's true with most things. Oil pump is electric, and I think there's a mechanical one inside it also. But the fans and everything else, they're mounted up here. They're electric. There's no need for belts. And the alternator, that's all completely solid state electric as far as I know. So, but anyway, the bottom line of that is there are no belts to change or worry about ever, although I have to admit, belts on cars, fan belts and things have gotten really good. They don't break the way they used to. In the olden days, every couple 2 or 3 years, boy, you got to be careful not to throw a belt. Then you had no more air conditioning. And the air conditioning system, of course, is electrical in this car. So that's why when you pull up to a light and everything shuts down, you still have your air conditioning, your power steering, and everything else. There are some cars that I've driven recently that when you pull up to it, has an automatic stop-start, which this has too. But when you pull up the light, it wouldn't have full air conditioning anymore, and a lot of times the power steering would quit. And I thought that, what? Granted, you're not moving. The moment you let up on the brake, everything starts up. But I didn't like that. I just thought that was weird. But you do not have this problem with this hybrid power plant. It continues to power everything. Everything keeps on going, even though the engine may not be running at all. And you also have in driving, you have an EV mode, which I like to call the drive-through mode. Because if you're in your drive-through and you're in there to get your burger or your chicken nuggets or whatever, you can just press the EV button. And usually if the battery is sufficiently charged, you can get all the way through the sitting in line at the drive-through without ever burning the engine and therefore never expending any fuel or creating emissions. So it's a real nice way to go. And what does this have over electric cars? Well, range, first of all, and secondly, to recharge this vehicle totally after your range is expended because you burn all the fuel, takes about 2 minutes max to fuel it back up, jump back in it and go. And that's the one problem I have with electrics, is how long it takes to charge them. And most of them, you have to do it after about 200 or 300 miles. I don't care what they say the range is. You usually need to do some recharging at that point. So everything has its purpose. Everything has its advantages and disadvantages. And I still think in 2025, about to be 2026, the hybrid is still overall the best overall around. When you have a situation where you're a normal driver and sometimes you go on trips, you do all kinds of things, it's the easiest to live with and the most fuel efficient. And emission wise, no, it's not as good as the electrics are, but they're pretty damn good overall. So that's why I'm a hybrid guy pretty much, and I don't own any electric vehicles at this time. I love testing them though. True story, I had an uncle out in California who worked for McDonnell Douglas, building airplanes, and he was also a pilot himself. And he had a grandson that he used to like to play, his grandson and him liked to play pilot together, and they'd fly around when they were in the car. And when the little boy was flying the car, sitting over in the passenger seat, he'd always tell my uncle that when it was time to put away the landing gear after takeoff, he'd go, "Grandpa, wheels!" which I always loved. But anyway, wheels. Yes, we have them. We have 19-inch wheels on our CX-50 hybrid. And we have beautiful Eagle Touring Goodyear tires, which are really good, I believe. They have a tread rating of 500, which is pretty average for your OEMs. What's the size? Let's look. They're 225, 55 R19. And this is a very, very serviceable all-terrain OEM tire. All-terrain, sorry, all-season, let's call it that. Is it M+S rated? I think it is. Are you? Yes, you are. There it is, M+S, you see. So all season is what I'm looking for. It's a good all-season tire. Like I said, 110-inch wheelbase, good brakes, like Mazdas always have. Very good brakes. The regenerative braking system, I haven't really noticed much. I don't have a lot to say about it because I haven't noticed much of anything going on. And I'm sure it's working. I'm sure it is, in fact. Whenever you are coasting or putting on the brakes, the electric motors swap themselves over to being generators and use the car's momentum to spin and therefore generate electricity, which goes back into your nickel metal hydride battery system. See how that works. Now, here's like I said, if you just take a good look at any vehicle by the side, you can take a look at the architecture of it, And you can see how much effort is devoted into rear seat room just by the size of the door. I actually believe that. I believe a lot of things that are crazy, but you know, that's my thing. And as you can see, it has a moderately sized door, but it's not as big as some of the others in the class. And the same thing with the rear. We got kind of a fastback roof line down there that is going to probably mean it doesn't have as much cargo room as some of the competition. Let's have a look, shall we? Whee! Oh, what's that doing there? Oh, well, let's move that. It's cargo in the cargo area. How'd that happen? But as you can see, the strongest thing about the cargo area, in my opinion, is when you have the second row deployed, as it is right now for people, you still have a good amount of room back here. And how much room is it? It's about, hang on, 29.2 cubic feet. So, and this particular one has these excellent rubber mats on here. Like a there, like a there, like a there. Now, if we lift this up, just like on the Toyota, you have a nice, this was a decent sized temporary spare tire. It's a big one though, it's a beefy sucker. Well, when you have your 19-inch wheels, you need a beefier one. And looks like we got a subwoofer for the sound system. But there we go, we have an excellent spare tire so that you can keep going if you have a puncture or something even worse. I do like these mats. It's very, very durable. And then you have your 60-40 increments that you can fold down the seats. And should you do that in an effort to increase your cargo space, you will get a total of 56.3 cubic feet of usable space in there for your cargo. So that's not as good as some of the competition, but that's good. I mean, it's, for a car that's this small, not bad. I wouldn't complain about that. And you got your partial obscure when you have a partial back there. And what else? What does this do? This is how you can lower both. You can pop both of these in. Well, you want to do that? No, I don't want to do that. I actually have to get back there in a minute. So we'll leave that there. What's this? Oh, looky here. Oh, what do we have here? Oh, it's a Mazda bag roadside assistance kit. Awesome. And there it is, right there, and it fits easily into this little cubby right here, I think. How was it in there? I'll fix that in a minute. God, well, over here on this side, you have just a nice storage bin. So a lot to like, very definitely. What are you doing in there, boy? Horses. They have their own agendas. So much for that, huh? It's a great little car in terms of cargo room, but it's just not as big as the competition. I mean, that's okay. The competition is fierce, I tell you. But does the competition have this incredible paintwork? I don't think it does. I don't think anybody does. But the Mazda CX-50 hybrid. I'm just going to gaze upon it for a while here. You talk among yourselves. And then we'll go into the interior. Look, honey, it's all analog. What?
Check your network connection and try again.
Shut up. I don't like being interrupted by a computer that's listening to me. Stop listening to me, whatever the hell you're called. Okay, let's try this again. Oh, honey, look. Analog instrumentation. Yeah, yes and no. Well, yeah, it is analog, but at the same time, this is very interesting. This is a Mazda thing, by the way. On our left side, we have a fully mechanical meter. Normally, that would probably be your tachometer. But in this case, since it is a hybrid, we have a charge and power meter. Right now, it's in the upper echelon of the charging, which is actually the lower echelon of charging. And then the more you use the gas engine, the more this heads towards the power side. Then over on the right side, we have our temperature gauge and we have our fuel gauge. Nice, very attractive, completely mechanical. And then in the middle is where we get all funky with our miraculously virtualistic center analog instrument. What we have here is something that is completely computer generated. I'll show you. I'll turn the car off, and there it goes. Our analog instruments are still over there, but if you will look to the center, we have nothing there. So this is an interesting choice because this way Mazda tells you you can use a few different, not an enormous.
I get it.
Yeah, I get it. So here we go to, you can monitor what your automated driving system is doing. In this case, it's adaptive cruise control. And supposedly this thing also has a steering function when you're cruising. I have not been able to access it, however. According to the Monroney, it says it is here, and it is in fact lane departure warning. That's one thing that I've turned off, but we also have lane keeping assist. But I can't seem to access that. I'm gonna work on that, but it's not readily apparent. Most of these vehicles these days have a separate switch located in the cruise control area that will in fact let you turn on and turn off lane keeping. This is much more complex in that I can't find exactly how you turn it on and off. But anyway, we'll get to that when we're driving, I hope. So far in my driving experience with this vehicle, I have not been able to get it to steer itself. So weird, man. Now over to the side here, we have a little EV. I don't know what you call that. It's a gaugette, but it's not a gauge. It's just an indicator. When the vehicle is on electric power alone, that lights up to tell you that you're just running on the electric motors, sorry. On the right side, we have a very convenient display that tells you how many miles you have until you have to fill up, until you're out of gas, in other words. So it's very straightforward. It's just not too whoppingly comprehensive. Something else I couldn't find on this vehicle is any place, if you like to monitor what's going on as far as whether the engine or the electric motor or both are activated, it doesn't have a display like that. It also doesn't have a display that I've been able to find anywhere that tells you whether or not the front or rear wheels or both are being sent power. And I'm comparing all this directly to the Toyota RAV4, which, as I mentioned 66 times during this video, this is the drivetrain from the RAV4. So it's possible that it has these things that I can't find them, but if so, I test a lot of cars and it's very, very counterintuitive to find them. We'll get into that in a minute. Our lighting array is right here, very simple, and we have an on-off button, which is great, to activate automatic dimming, which is it will put it on the high beams until it sees something like an oncoming car or something like that, or you're right behind a car in front of you, in which case it will dim the bright lights automatically for you. But you can also completely turn that off if you desire. Very simple to do, right here on the end of the stalk. Down in here we have our, you have a ring of fire, a ring of protection as far as a bunch of safety technology, and you can pick and choose what you like to have. I have blind spot warning on right now, of course. I never take that off on any car I have. I think that's the most valuable of all the technologies that's come along as far as maintaining your, giving you a real good idea about what's going on as far as anti-collision stuff, which is what you want. Now in this case, if you look up front here, this little yellow light, I've turned off lane departure warning because I constantly have to leave my lane for all kinds of reasons, because this is a rural situation and I hate it every single time you do that. It starts to beep and do all kinds of stuff, so that's turned off. But if you live in what I would consider a normal urban environment, that might be very valuable to you to have that. So your choice. You can turn it on and off. It's in settings under safety features or something, and you know, it's 2 or 3 menus deep, but you can find it. You also have all the parking assistance has been turned off. I don't know who or what did that. That explains a great deal. Here's our fuel tank access. As far as this opens up the flap for you. And then it's probably like the RAV4 hybrid in that you have a set amount of time to fuel the car, and it's like 5 minutes or something like that to actually start fueling the car. It all has to do with emissions and has to do with gas fumes, because believe it or not, there's a lot of emissions in gas fumes. So they've been doing all kinds of things. You remember those things they used to have on the pump itself, that big rubber boot thing that everybody hated to death, especially motorcyclists? Well, those have pretty much disappeared near as I can tell, but I think it's been superseded by the systems on modern cars, which are of a evaporative design that help fumes from getting out into the atmosphere. So anyway, you got a couple of adjustments down below that for different drivers to lock in their particular settings on the seat and that sort of thing. This way the car will remember that. And it has a designated number like 1 or 2. So there we go. Now, one of my biggest complaints about this steering wheel is the controls here have a nice chrome finish, right? The problem with that nice chrome finish is that in an awful lot of lighting conditions that I've encountered, it's very, very difficult to see. Like this is actually your, when you want to use the phone, you press that. When you want to hang up the phone, you press that. And this is the info button that changes this setting here in the middle of the speedometer. But it's really hard to see which is which, like I said, seriously, under most lighting conditions. Above that, this is all stereo stuff, so you can go back and forth to your favorites and adjust the volume right here and everything else. And then on the right side, we have our cruise control array, and it's kind of funky in its own way too. You only have one. This is false, and this is just the on-off with the cruise control. I've got it on, and there I've made it go away and turned it on, turned it back on again. There we are. It's hard to see like everything else, and we have a toggle switch here that goes, if you want to increase the following distance when the adaptive cruise control is engaged, you tilt this up that way. If you want to decrease it, you tilt it down that way. But it's all too easy to actually bump cancel when you hit that, in which case it will turn your cruise control off for the moment. So again, it's just, this is not the best design I've seen lately on cars as far as just general cruise control controls. It's a pain. But you get used to it, but I don't think it's a real good, out of the box, I don't think it's a very good design. Here we have our windshield wiper array, which is completely comprehensive, front and back. Very easy to operate, very easy to access, very logical. We love it. Now now the interesting thing is so many manufacturers right now are trying so hard to put in really complicated, we got some, they're building a lot of a big house like 2 houses away, and everything. I swear they're using explosives from time to time because I hear the weirdest noise coming from over there. This screen, instead of being a huge block screen, is a very long, skinny, widescreen affair. And it works good for this interior because this is a compact vehicle. And overall, I have no big complaints about it. It works just fine. You also have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay access wirelessly, which I use all the time on this vehicle. All in all, I have 0 complaints about this. I actually like the fact that it's a little less distracting than a lot of them. And as you can see, it rides very low below the hood line here. So it does not in any way hamper your visibility. And speaking of which, we do have, I can go to the menu here and go down to settings and go down to in-vehicle displays, and active driving display is which they call their heads-up display, and I've got it turned off, but I can turn it on, and I have, and there it is. Can you see it? There it is. If you're into heads-up display, there's one for you. Now, one of the nicest things that Mazda did is I was in a running argument with them about the fact that for the longest time, if you had a heads-up display in a Mazda and you turned it off, you had to turn it off every single time you started the car because the default position was on. And I really don't like those things. So every time I started the car, it was part of my pre-drive away ritual to make sure that that was turned off. Now, once you set it, it stays there, and that's great. That's the way it should be. So, bravo for them doing that. It started, I believe, I want to say on the CX-90 that they started correcting that. But anyway, it looks like it's pretty much across the board as far as I can tell now, so good for them. So as we migrate to the south, we enter our heating, ventilation, and air conditioning section. And this one's pretty straightforward. Like just about everything on the planet, you have an automatic setting that features two zones, your passenger side and your driver's side. And you can link them both with the sync button right there. And everything else is pretty easy to access. You have both your front and rear defrosters right over here. You have your split defroster leg thing, which is a real popular setting in the wintertime because it mainly warms your lower legs and the windshield to keep the windshield clean. So that I love. You go down a little bit further, we have a heated steering wheel, we have heated seats, and we have a ventilated seat. Everything you would desire in your ventilation system and your cooling in your seat itself is all present right there. Very easy to access. Kudos to Mazda for that, for not making it on some menu on the touch screen that you got to dig up and find. Not at all. There's a button right there for you to find it very quickly. Now, if you have driven a Toyota RAV4, you'll notice that basically the setup is almost identical. It's a mechanical shifter, which is great. You go all the way down, and it features this electronically, continuously variable transmission, electronically governed. But you also have a manual mode. So you can go through, I believe, 6 speeds. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 speeds. Or drive, depending on what you'd like. Here is our drive selection mode. And what we have is trail, or power, or normal. And normal is where it usually stays. Naturally, when you put it on power, everything goes red. It's like you're heating up your nuclear reactor or whatever. But there we go to normal. Very easy to access. Here is your central controller. Now, this is a control button similar to, if you go all the way back when BMW's iDrive appeared, it is a knob that you use to navigate your touch screen. There it is, doing its thing as I turn it. You can also use the touch screen as a touch screen. Look at there, he said. Well, apparently not in this one you can't. If you go to, let's go to one of these. I swear. Let's go to entertainment this way. Well, I tell you where it does work. If you're using Apple CarPlay and you're using Waze, the navigation system, the touchscreen works just like a regular touchscreen, as well as using this commander controller thingy. So, interesting. Again, it's one of those things you'll have to learn when you're test driving the car. Have the salesman explain all these things to you, which is a great test to see if your salesperson knows what they're talking about. Ask them how many gallons of gas the car holds. That's always one of my favorite. If you don't know, if they have no idea how much fuel the vehicle holds, I would buy that car from some other person, because that's not a knowledgeable individual about the products they're selling. Anyway, that goes back years, that feeling I have. I always ask them that. Hey, how many gallons of gas you get in this thing anyway? Well, it's an electric car, Mr. Tarkington. Oh, how many gallons does the electric motor hold? You know, you can just mess with them. We have it around a little array of controls that go around our commander knob here. And this, of course, you got navigation, return, home, and then the sound system. Interestingly, there are no radio knobs. There's no tuning knob. That has to all be done through this thing. But your volume and your on-off is controlled right over here by this little knob. Now, they've had this on Mazdas for a while, and that's an interesting choice. I don't know why they decided to make it a little knob way over here instead of somewhere up here in the, where you're used to finding radio controls. But that's their choice. That's what they decided to do. So, God bless them. That's all I can say. We have leather trim seats. Let me put this right back here again. over here. Oh, wait a minute. I should show you. This is very, very nice, actually. We have a very deep little console here, and we have a couple of USB-C ports. And then right there, well, I should do this while this is up. Here's your QI. Your wireless charging for your smartphone is right there, and it fits right there, and it stays there. That's actually a very good location for it. And even with the case on it, it had zero trouble charging my phone, so it works well. Glove box, fairly deep. You could get a tablet computer in there, no problem. And then our seats, which are lovely. They're actually very, very supportive on this car. And as you can see, they're very well contoured and everything else. This is leather. And you have your ventilation, of course. It's perforated, so you can have when you have your ventilated mode on to keep you cool in the summertime. And it's heated to keep you warm in the winter. And all in all, it's a very sharp looking. I like this, this little, can you see the gold accent here? We have our gold accent. And we also, of course, have some LEDs in there. It's becoming more and more commonplace. As we go up, whee, here's our controls for our beautiful panorama roof. There I can open her up just like that. And will it go any further back than that? Nope, just a bit, just a crack. But that's good ventilation. You can enjoy that. And you can also, and the shade is automatic. You just one press and it'll completely close that down for you, and you can stop it at any part that you want to stop it. So this is an excellent panorama. I like these panorama roofs a lot, and I haven't seen or heard of a whole lot of problems with any of them leaking or anything like that. It can happen because most of these things have pretty elaborate drainage systems for the rain, but all in all, it's a good situation for you, because it helps enlighten the interior and make the interior seem roomier than it actually is. And, and during certain times of year, it's also beautiful out there, especially for your rear seat passengers. And speaking of which, let us sojourn back. We have a Bose sound system, by the way, which is excellent. Look at that, 90 degrees it opens up. Now this is here where it loses a little bit some of the competition, because it's roomy enough, but it's not as roomy as some of the other guys are. You have excellent map lights up in there. And let's see, how far does our window go down? Well, it doesn't go down at all when they always do this to me. There. That should work now. There we go. Oh, wow, it only goes down about, what would you say, about 80%? Interesting. Leg room is okay. Knee room is okay, provided the person driving the car is not too vast in the leg room department for themselves. As long as the seat is not too far back, you're pretty comfortable. Headroom is good. It's not as good as some of the rest, but it is definitely adequate. The seats themselves are nicely contoured. You get lower back support in the lumbar region pretty nicely. And look at here, heated on the outboard parts of it. You got a real nice dual USB-C ports and a very, very mild drive shaft tunnel. Very mild, no big deal, because it doesn't need a drive shaft tunnel because the rear drive system is electric, so there is no drive shaft running through there. You got a real nice armrest here at a good, comfortable angle. I like it, actually. For my particular 5'8" physique, this is very, very comfortable. And then the seats fold down in 60-40 increments. And excellent rear, well, actually on the back of this and on the floor, some rubber mats to protect the all-weather rubber mat type situation. But interestingly, the rest of the car just has carpeted mats. I would have thought the whole thing would have been electric. Good, what was I thinking? I would have thought the whole thing would have been rubberized, but it's not. But all in all, it's a good space back here. It's just not quite up to some of the competition, but it's perfectly adequate, especially if you have kids. They'll be very comfortable back here. It's not a problem at all. So, there we are. There is our Mazda CX-50 hybrid interior. And what's our trim mode again? Our trim mode is, in fact, the Premium Plus. And that's one of the reasons you got so much nice stuff on it. Not a bad price for all this equipment either. Shall we move on? Let's. All right, so here, let's see the ruggedness of the, do we have a terrain mode? I think we do. Hang on here, hang on. Trail, we're in trail mode. Yes, indeed, we're going on the trail now. Not sure what this does, the trail mode. Other than say trail, it does say that. And let's see if I go over this great big rock right here. Does it do anything? Well, first of all, it has an excellent suspension. Very well dampened, that, I have to say. I think it's geared differently. I think you're probably... I have not been able to discover anything that shows you what part of the drivetrain is doing different things. There is an info thing here, but it doesn't tell me much. And I don't know if I can adjust that from... this is the telephone over here, so man, I just don't know. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot of information to hand, as they say. Let's see if it'll go off of trail mode here now that I speed up. Yep, I'm zooming along now. And it's still on trail mode. Well, who knew? We're going, what, 42 miles an hour? Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to go back to normal. I'm not real sure. I'll look that up. Hopefully pass that information on to you as to what the trail mode actually does. But we have a normal and a power and a trail mode, a tri-mode situation. The map you are seeing is from WAS, which is from Apple CarPlay, which is connected via Bluetooth. So you don't have to have any kind of a nasty cable that you may strangle your cell phone or get all tangled up with. So it's very interesting driving this vehicle because this is a Mazda, but it has the RAV4 powertrain in it, and we have a RAV4 that has basically the same powertrain. I mean, it's a 2.5 liter. Our battery array is nickel metal hydride, so is this, instead of lithium ion, which I heartily applaud because nickel metal hydride I think are just generally better. That's my opinion, and now you've heard it. But I don't like lithium ion because of the various characteristics that they have that can blow up stuff. They're very well protected on modern cars. There's all kinds of devices, safeguards, and things to keep thermal runaway from taking place, and it seems very effective for the most part. But still, things can happen, and that will not happen with a nickel metal hydride battery. That's why Toyota is using in all their trucks so far with their hybrid system, which I think is a really useless. Well, that's an interesting noise it just made, this car. The hybrid system, on their trucks is a different style than what's on this vehicle or the Toyota RAV4. But it does use nickel metal hydride batteries, which are just, in Toyota's mind, a better choice for a truck because they're more rugged and they're... but Toyota has been going nuts with battery development, so we're going to see something soon that's unique to the market that might be really interesting. I mean, excuse me, I'm suddenly losing my voice. It's every couple of years you see some people claiming that there's this new revolutionary battery technology coming out. It's a game changer. and all the rest of it. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I do know Toyota used to own a good chunk of Panasonic. Maybe they still do, maybe they don't, or maybe there's just a liaison with Panasonic. But Panasonic makes really good batteries. Even just the 12 volt. If you get a Japanese-made Toyota, for example, it has a battery that's made in Japan by Panasonic, and they tend to last. I'd say the one on our RAV4 right now is 6 years old, and I just had them test it, and they say it's fine, so nothing to worry about here. So they last longer, but if you get the one built in the United States, you'll be real lucky if you get 5 years out of it, because the supplier, I don't know who it is that builds the batteries, the True Start batteries for Toyota, they're not very good batteries. I'm sorry, I have to say that, because I had the last one I had was prorated the last 5 years, and it didn't make it 3 before it quit, and I had to have it replaced. And I did get a real nice pro rating on that, which was good. But I expect your batteries to last longer than that. But this is not a Toyota. This is a Mazda, and it has all the characteristics. If you like the driving side of Mazdas, what is it? Shino-Itu? Well, I forget exactly what it's pronounced, but it means horse and rider is one. They do a great job with how their vehicles handle, and also just an overall suspension compliance is really good. And the CX-50 hybrid is no exception in this regard. It does well. There's certain harsh substances that I've driven over, broken substrate motorways. This is not the smoothest riding vehicle in the world, but in most circumstances under which I've driven it, it's nice. Now, right now we're on a super smooth bit of recently repaved highway, and it's naturally doing a very good job on that. But we'll see. But my brief little test I did driving over some boulders in my driveway, it did real well. I mean, it's a very compliant, and also the whole overall chassis feels good and solid. That's something else I feel that Mazda's done a great job with, is just the overall solid feel to the chassis. And you want that in your car, because it helps handling. It helps when you have a nice solid chassis that's fairly stiff, and with unibody construction, that is absolutely what you want. With body on frame construction, you want a certain amount of flex in the frame. That's why it's best used on pickups and SUVs that are actually hauling things and or going in serious off-road situation. But if you have a unibody, you want that body to be nice and stiff. There's all kinds of advantages to that. One of which is it can absorb, especially with the use of high-strength metals and aluminum and other things, it can absorb energy in a crash that won't get passed on to the passengers, which is a fantastic thing to help survivability in these cars. It also helps handling in general, and when it's a really nice solid body, you won't get any creaks and groans over the years. It tends to stay fairly tight, and like I mentioned, handling wise, it's real interesting, because even though it doesn't have a frame per se, it has subframes that the suspension components are mounted to. But when the body itself that the subframes are attached to is also really firm, that just gives a much sharper handling and just a better overall feel to it. And Mazda's been very strong in this area, in my opinion. And the CX-50 hybrid is no exception to that. But it is really interesting that they had to take this is not a SKYACTIV engine. This is a RAV4 active, a Toyota active engine. And I mean, Mazda says they had the basic design from Toyota. That I don't know how it looks to me like, and you'll see closer when we look at the engine. Well, we have looked at the engine. You've seen it, but various details, it looks near as damn it like they just bought the engine and transmission to me, and the rear drive system for that matter, just from straight over from Toyota. But they do, you know, they do polish things in such a manner that it fits into their engineering scheme, and very interesting. I wasn't expecting this. I don't know why I was expecting that they were going to come up with their very own hybrid system that would be unique to Mazda, but they haven't done that yet. And they're not afraid to, you know, go outside the box. I mean, all the rotary engine RX-7s and RX-8s that they had for years that had their own problems, but were also extremely fun to drive and really interesting engines. But nobody else did a rotary like that, just Mazda. So they were not afraid to be bold. Now we're going down a rugged trail here. And again, it has that nice solid feel to it. Making something out of nothing. Got to get that new Lucas Nelson, son of Willie Nelson. His new song, it's called Make You Happy. Great song, great song. So we got an interesting blustery day today. It's much cooler than it has been. It's 35 degrees outside right now and very windy, gusty, one might say, if one was to engage in conversation about the wind. And I love stuff like this because I always love to see how the car does in crosswind situations. These are the kind of things that most of your reviewer types never pay attention to, but I do because I think it's important. Because it shows a number of things. It shows you how aerodynamic the car is, therefore how quiet it is, but more than that is how stable it is. Because we have a real problem, my friends. We have people that do not remain in their lanes anymore. They go all over the damn place, and that is something that we need to stop. We need to stop right away. We need to get these people to stop doing that thing. So, anyhow, we're going to be heading that way. We're heading almost due north here, and then we're going to go be heading due west. And so we're going to get a little bit of everything in this. We drive by the airport. You know the airport. We've been by there 50 times. There's a big, long, flat place right there, and the main runway is 45 on it. What does that mean? It does. I'm kidding you. It don't say 45. What it does is when you look at if the runway says 9, that runway faces directly east. If it says 27, it faces almost exactly due west. Well, that's what we're looking at up there. It's 27. But no matter where the wind's coming from, there's always a strong crosswind component. Always, always. And there we go. I'm activating my cruising, and it's just ignoring me. Thank you. Come on. What's wrong with you? There we go. And there we go. So our cruise control is now activated. But it's really blustery. This always happens in October, November. All these beautiful leaves just, well, to be perfectly blunt with you, they get the living crap blown out of them. And they go away. We don't have the leaves anymore. But I can tell by my virtual analog speedometer that we are going just under the speed limit. Well, no, wait a minute, that's right. The speed limit along here is different. We're going just over the speed limit. Oh my goodness gosh. But anyhow, we're going to have a situation here that we have to deal with. And I tell you what, I can hear it, but I really can't feel it. That's a real good sign that, it shouldn't be surprising because Mazdas, unlike a lot of the other guys out there, have made their vehicles very, very aerodynamic. Hyundai's another one. Hyundai is another one that's done a really nice job with making their cars super aerodynamic. You see more of almost like an aircraft type front nose on it as compared to these huge flat, I don't know what the hell to call them. Part of the problem is we have so few sedans now. And there's so many SUVs, and so many of the SUVs are trying to look as rugged as possible, but our friends at Mazda have decided that it's a good idea. Oh, I'm going to have to do some action here. I'm going to tell them what's going on. Mazda has concluded that, there's no reason not to have a very nice aerodynamic front end, because there's so many benefits to it, to having an aerodynamic car as opposed to a non-aerodynamic one. And so they have decided that they really like to go the route of a good aerodynamic profile all over the car. That way they get a really nice situation when it comes to the winds blowing and the car going at ridiculous speeds down the highway. All these things aid in keeping the machine stable, and that is so important these days. And if you look at the fact that people are constantly weaving in and out of lanes anyway because they're always distracted, the wind can contribute to that also. So not only is the person not particularly paying attention to staying in the lane because they're focused on whatever they're looking at, but it also has a lot to do with just pure reaction to when the car gets pushed back and forth by the wind. They're not paying as close of attention as they should. Now, how do these things do when it comes to steering? Well, I'll have to try to figure that out. And I'm going to stop and reset all this and see if I can turn the lane stability back on, because there is nothing in this right here unlike what I'm going to constantly compare this to the Toyota RAV4 since it's the same drivetrain. There's nothing here that you can instantly turn on or turn off the steering to do the lane tracing without going into a main menu and doing it that way. And I think that's really dumb, personally. As you can see right now, there's this little yellow light. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it says off. Our lane departure thing is off. I turn all that stuff off if it's just like a lane departure thing, because I have to depart my lane quite a bit where I live for all kinds of different reasons, mainly to avoid pedestrians, dogs, deer, check the mailbox. I mean, there are reasons upon reasons why I have to do that. Well, is this a RAV4 hybrid or is it a CX-50? It's a CX-50, you know that. But it is the RAV drivetrain, so are we looking for similarities? Yes, we are. And here's our rear differential, which is basically an electric motor with a differential attached to it. Is it the same one that is on the RAV4? I really don't know. But what I do know is we have a real interesting rear suspension here, because I see struts, I see springs, and I see a hollow. Oh, wait a minute here, I'm trying to adjust the instrument there. A hollow right in there. It's like an A-arm, I guess. It almost looks to me like we have a torsion axle here. It would be all the way up here. I think that's what we have. I'll have to dig into this. This is very interesting. Well, this would be a subframe right here, all the way across here. But this right here, up in there, can you see that right there? I do believe that is a torsion beam up there. And here we have one of the coil springs. There's one on the other side, naturally. Here is our drive shaft, which is very easy to spot because it's right here. There's nothing concealing it. And we'll go over here and have a look. And again, it looks like there is our shock absorber right there. And here is what is appearing to be part of a beam axle system. Let's roll on over here and have a look. I need more light. Hang on. I got a light over here. There we go. Yeah, this is a beam rear axle, so it means it's what I would call a semi-independent rear axle. Here's a coil spring. And this is, by the way, you can tell the difference here. Look at this. This is almost at maximum extension. And over here is almost at maximum compression. And our beam axle just bends while supporting the two. So it's an independent rear suspension in that it is, oh wow, look in there. Can you see in there? That orange right there is part of our cabulature that can cause a lot of trouble on the RAV4s with corrosion over time. But this one looks like it's mounted in such a way that, wow, I can actually see part of the, I think it's mounted more on top, and if I remember right, the RAV is mounted on bottom, and therein lies the problem with it over time if you live in a salty area. As you know, you'd almost think this thing is electric because look at how flat and wonderful all the protection is here. The battery itself is under the rear seat, I do believe. I have to look and see if there's ventilation there because I'm assuming it's set up pretty much like the RAV4 drivetrain it is derived from, borrowed from, whatever. Wow, there's some more electric cablature. So they definitely ran their cables a little different, it looks like, than the RAV4. When I say RAV4, I'm not talking about the 26. I hadn't seen it yet. And I don't know if they've made any changes. But that's interesting. Don't know what that does. But we have a real interesting situation here. We got a nice big plastic cover here that I believe is larger than the RAV. I'd compare it to the RAV4. Matter of fact, I will. I'll get a shot of ours so we can compare and contrast, which we always love to do. But that's basically it. And the big thing about the suspension is that on the RAV it is completely independent. Trailing arm, what would you call it? I'd call it your standard rear suspension on a modern compact vehicle, in that it is fully independent. But this is semi-independent in that it has a torsion beam connecting both sides, one beam, and that flexes as the car's wheels move up and down and side to side. So they're not totally isolated from each other, the two rear wheels. However, it acts near as damn it like they are because of the way these things are set up. They're very simple suspension systems. Very few parts. We do have this protective thing right here, this plastique. But again, the springs look so different because this one is almost fully compressed, and the other one is almost fully extended. So, pardon me. So there you go. That is our very interesting Mazda CX-50 hybrid rear suspension, and the car handles very, very nicely, but I'll tell you right off the bat though, it is not as smooth a riding as at least a 2019 RAV4 hybrid like we have, because I've driven them back to back over the same roads, and that one is a little bit more. Of course, in that case, and it's maybe true with this is a Premium Plus, and ours is an XSE trim in Toyota land. So, and it actually does have a little bit different suspension on it. in terms of the struts and the coils and everything are a little different from some of the other models. So maybe we got a smoother riding model in the XSE package. I have no idea right off the bat. But anyway, this is interesting. Now, one question I have up here in the Northeast, how is this all going to do in the Rust Belt? Because we got an awful lot of exposed areas inside here where all the electrics and everything else are. Will salt get up in there and do damage over time? Hopefully not. They may have already thought about that, and it may be, even though it's open, it may be very, very highly resistant to being corroded, but we'll see. But that is one problem that we've had with some of our hybrids up here, because the highway department is dead set in destroying your car and everyone that rides in it by putting so much salt on the road that it breaks things like, it literally breaks, I'm a witness to the fact that it can destroy brake lines and everything else in less than 15 years, and that's not good. So anyway, a very, very tidy package here, and a very sturdy one as well, and a fair decent amount of ground clearance to go along with it.
Well there, our 2026 Mazda Toyota CX-50 hybrid. I kid, Mazda. It's the Toyota powertrain, but I don't know. They may build it at Mazda, or Mazda may build it. Anyway, has an estimated mile per gallon range of 39 city, 37 highway, 38 overall. A base price of $40,450, and with options we came to $43,655 as your sticker. So, a very interesting vehicle in a very competitive field. Would I recommend it over the RAV4? Well, I tell you, they're very different actually. They have very different characteristics, even having the same drivetrain. But the fact of the matter is, you get an excellent compact SUV that is very enjoyable to drive, gets excellent fuel economy. We saw, what did we see? We saw 30.3 miles per gallon with it, and it's a lovely vehicle. Thanks for staying with us, and I will see you next time.
Do whatever the tube tells you. You dress like the tube, you eat like the tube, you raise your children like the tube, you even think like the tube. This is mass madness, you maniacs. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion.